Reform UK has topped a landmark national poll for the second week running. The survey by YouGov has Nigel Farage's Insurgent Party on its highest level of support to date with 26%, up 1 point from the week before. Labour is second with 25%, up 1, while the Tories are unchanged in third place on 21%. The Liberal Democrats take 14%, while the Greens are on 9%. It comes after Reform topped last week's voter intention poll for the first time last week. Reform Chairman Zia Youssef said, "Reform now leads in the latest YouGov voting intention poll, with our highest ever level of support, and 5 points clear of the Tories. Real change is coming to Britain." The rebranded Brexit Party, which returned 5 MPs in July's general election but came second in 98 constituencies, has climbed the polls in recent months. It comes as Reform leader Mr Farage and Tory leader Kemi Badenoch both yesterday ruled out an election deal between their two parties. Ms Badenoch said talk of a pact was for the birds and dismissed the prospect of the Clacton MP entering 10 Downing Street. Speaking as she marked 100 days as Tory leader, she told The Telegraph, "The Conservative Party is a broad church. When we had disagreements, what people saw was disunity. We've now got a place where we are unified. The idea that you just do something with a whole different bunch of people and it's going to be fine is for the birds. Politics just doesn't work like that. There are many people who vote Conservative, who, if they think that we're having mergers or pacts or whatever with Reform, will go elsewhere." Meanwhile, Mr Farage said he did not consider the Conservatives to be honourable. He said, "To do a pact with people, you've got to think, I'm going to shake your hand and you're an honourable person. After the betrayal post the 2019 election, we do not believe them to be honourable. Simple as that, so the answer is no." Here is a summary of internet users' reactions. This current Labour Party, when they have no other grounds to answer critics, in their desperation are increasing denouncing opponents as far-right and therefore illegitimate. During the widespread disturbances after Southport, Starmer and Cooper repeatedly denounced the people on the streets as far-right extremists. But the 11, 12, 13-year-olds who were arrested and appeared in the 24 courts Starmer set up, were these children far-right extremists? The definition of far/hard right or left is a group that wants a society that is an autocracy. They want to replace democracy and with a totalitarian government governing a one-party state that dictates policy and all opposition is silenced, all for the greater good. So I have a question of all those Starmer, Cooper, Rayner supporters. Those people who condemn Nigel Farage as far-right, those who condemn the people who call for a national inquiry into grooming gangs as racists. Does Reform conform to the definition of the far-right? Does Reform and Nigel Farage want to replace democracy with a one-party state? Before answering, something to consider. Which political groups have repeatedly cancelled speakers from expressing their views at public and private meetings? Reform or any of the numerous left-wing groups? Which group wants to eliminate the functioning of the democratic process and silence those who hold alternative views? Reform and Nigel Farage, or those who appear with socialist worker/stop the war/stop funding hate placards? At every event where members of a political party, that is legally elected MPs, are attending and demand the total cancellation not just of the event but the silencing of those they disagree with? So by the definition, which side are the extremists? After decades of cooperative gerrymandering from the Lib-Lab-Con party, our democracy has been rigged to ensure the status quo. I didn't think anyone else would stand a chance, but now I have changed my mind. I think Reform can overcome. I'll lend them my support next time, along with my 5 adult children and wife, who've come along with me. I'm a floating voter, so if I vote for a party I must believe, even if I'm wrong, that they must have substance to them. So I could not vote for Reform because I am super confident that is the one thing that they just don't have, substance. And below is the very information that makes me sincerely believe this. Very well put, and explained and easily understandable. All out of sync. A Reform/Conservative alliance would give the liberal-leaning Conservative career politicians power they have already shown they do not deserve. Any Reform proposals would be ignored or watered down to just more of the same old. Although the Conservatives might take the opportunity to have a purge of the Lib Dems in their ranks who are only there because they wanted the perks of an MP, an ambition the Lib Dems were unlikely to be able to provide. Reform may just have to go it alone and hope for the best. While the Conservatives had 4 years to persuade us that this time we're really listening, this time we are definitely not lying, as if. I'm a member. Most people I know are voting Reform. It's the only way we can save the UK. The blob are running scared. Labour and Tories are in disarray. Last night we had Tory Mr Chairman lecturing Reform supporters who he claimed were uneducated. Is that the best Tory HQ has to offer? A toff sneering at Reform voters, trying to save their salaries and privilege at the expense of the electorate and democracy. They really have the wrong end of the stick. Reform are unstoppable because Reform is grassroots. It's based on one simple premise. The political establishment and civil service have failed our great country and we want it back. You can shout as loud as you like, sneer as much as you like. We don't care, we've heard it all before. Reform is on its way to number 10 and there's nothing anyone can do to stop the revolt against the political status quo. We trust in Reform to make Brexit Britain great again, and Reform are the only party that will prioritise British citizens' needs and concerns before anyone else's. Both the Tories and now Labour have failed the people of this country, so why not give someone else a try? Give Reform your vote. Only one person has liked this post. Reform has only 5 MPs, and Zia Yusuf, their chairman, who isn't an MP and doesn't want to be one. Farage and Lowe are on X, Twitter, all day long, every day of the week. They weren't even in Parliament today for that big important vote. The Daily Express is the only newspaper that's gullible enough not to do its research and to keep encouraging people to be Reform voters. All their candidates are dire. Not one of them is fit to be an MP. Not one. Yet I guarantee that the Daily Express hasn't spent 1 second checking any of them out. Brexiters do not like this YouGov poll. 5 years after Brexit, the proportion of Brits who think it was right to leave the EU is at its lowest ever point since the referendum. Just 3 in 10 Britons, 30%, say that it was right for the UK to vote to leave the EU, compared to 55% who say it was wrong, a new YouGov poll has shown. This is the lowest proportion of the public saying that Britain was right to vote to leave since the pollster began asking this question in the aftermath of the referendum. ABF. Anyone but Farage. A poll yesterday showed that many people wouldn't vote Reform purely because Farage is in charge. Despite what so much of the media like to say, the man is a total turn-off for the vast majority. And still both Starmer and Ed Davey are more popular than him. Congratulations Reform, you've found 200.000 mugs. Reform on a roll, government beckons. Over 200,000 members already, only 47 million votes to go. Congratulations Reform UK. Next goal 30%. Reform UK, fastest growing party. Join and vote Reform UK, you know it is the only way. All the lefty excuses coming out again. How long have they had this vinyl record? It's about time they got a new one. Enjoy it I say, don't listen to the Express miseries that type in every day. At least you now know that you are above them. Once a government has been formed, all parties should work together for the best of the country. Just to point out a little fact that this so-called Labour Party is nothing of the sort. It is the London millionaires' Marxist party who hijacked the Labour Party of old because they knew it was the only way they could get elected. Weird? Sir Starmer the leader is a millionaire. His sugar daddy Ali is a multi-one. Corbyn is one. It's weird you don't know that. A poll over 4 years before an election is pointless. Look where the Tories were in the polls 4 years before last year's election and what happened to them.